Hi, I'm Marianne Quintana, and today is January the 20th, 2019, and I'm here to discuss about the different function and structures of our epithelial, muscle, nervous, and skeletal tissues. First, I'm going to discuss about the epithelial tissues in our body. It's basically a big layer of tissues that cover the surfaces of our body, and they also act as a barrier or lining from the different organs of our body from the external and internal environments. So it's like our GI tract, for example. There are different organs inside our GI system, and the way that it's separated with the other organs is by way of the epithelial tissues. And we also have to know that epithelial tissues are also avascular, meaning they contain no blood vessels. And the way that they sustain or get nourishments from our body is through the connective tissue or underlying tissue through our basement membrane. And the way that epithelial tissues are structured is based on their functions. Some tissues consist of single layer or simple epithelial tissue, and also there's more than one layer called stratified epithelial tissues. Epithelial tissues are also structured in the way that they are shaped. So there are different shapes of epithelial tissues. There is a flat, or what we call squamous. There's also cuboidal or cube shaped, and columnar or column shaped, and transitional epithelium. So in general, there are four functions that may be attributed to the epithelial tissues: protection of the underlying tissues, absorption, secretion, and reception of sensory stimuli. The epithelial tissues can be found in the lining of our GI tract organs, skin surfaces, and other hollow organs like our blood vessels. Next up is our connective tissue, and from the word itself, we can directly associate it with the word connect. They are the tissues that are found in our tendons and ligaments, for example. And connective tissue is responsible for many functions in our body other than connecting and supporting the other tissues. It also serves as the protection. It transports fluids and nutrients that it needs. It also prevents the other unwanted harm or harmful microorganisms from entering into our other organs. It also is also fixed, meaning it doesn't move, and it goes or flows around our body. There are different types of connective tissues. We have loose connective tissue that can be found under our skin, and the dense connective tissues that are flexible and long. And the connective tissues can be found in our bones, tendons, and our fats. Next up is our muscle tissues, and when we hear the word muscle tissues, we think of the word movement. And when you hear about movement, we think about muscle tissues. And as the word itself, they are responsible for the movement. And they can also be voluntary and involuntary. And we also have to know that muscle tissues respond to a certain stimuli, which in return cause the body system to function or react. And there are different structures of muscle tissues as well, and they are the cardiac muscles, smooth muscles, and skeletal muscles. First of all, the cardiac muscles, which are only found in our heart. So they're basically the one responsible for pumping the blood of our heart to flow through our body. Smooth muscles is responsible for the movement of our internal organs, like for example when we urinate, there is a muscle that contracts to make us urinate. The airway passages those are some of the parts or organs of our body that have smooth muscles. And lastly, the skeletal muscles. They are the ones responsible for the movement or locomotion on our body or anything voluntary when it comes to movement. Nervous tissues. They are the tissue in our body of our body that are responsible in sending and receiving signals for our body to properly respond or react. Our nervous tissues have two main classes of cells, the neurons and the neuralgia. Neurons, the main characteristic is that it is responsible in getting or receiving stimuli and respond by producing action potentials, which is an electrical signal that can travel fast to the different parts of our body. And then there's neuralgia, is the one supporting the neurons to be able to respond depending on what the neurons receive. And so those are the four tissues in our body.